she's out. Pam Bondi is no longer America's top law enforcement official. After 1 year and about 2 months, Bondi, who served 8 years as Florida's Attorney General, is now out as Attorney General of the United States. And she just released a statement. Quote, "Over the next month, I'll be working tirelessly to transition the office of Attorney General to the amazing Todd Blanche. Before moving to an important private sector role I'm thrilled about and where I will continue fighting for President Trump and this administration." Now, just yesterday, she traveled the 16 blocks from the White House to the Supreme Court with President Trump. They listened to a hearing on Trump's efforts to limit birthright citizenship. And 12 days from now, Bondi is scheduled to be deposed on Capitol Hill. The topic, Jeffrey Epstein and the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein case. Will she still have to appear? Democrats in the House Oversight Committee say yes. And as Bondi mentioned, we do not know who will replace her, at least for now, but we do know Todd Blanche is the Deputy Attorney General who will in the interim, which means, of course, he had been Bondi's number 2. In a post on X, Blanche writes in part, quote, "Pam Bondi led this department with strength and conviction, and I'm grateful for her leadership and friendship." Today, President Trump echoed those same remarks. He says, quote, "Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend who faithfully served as my Attorney General over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest level since 1900. We love Pam, and she will be transitioning to a much-needed and important new job in the private sector," end quote. Senior political analyst and former Republican senator from the great state of Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum, joins me. Boy, is this a surprise?
No, I mean, you've heard rumors for a long time that the president was not happy with how some of the things that the Attorney General was doing. The Epstein affair was, in his mind, mishandled by her. And you've heard a lot of complaints from MAGA types, and been hearing it since this announcement, that she wasn't prosecuting enough people, that she wasn't taking revenge, if you will, on some of the people who went after Trump. And maybe it was those combination of factors. But if you look at, and she talks about it in her statement, if you look at what she accomplished, I mean, murder rates at a 100-year low or something like that. I mean, there's a lot that she can hang her hat on, that she really performed the job admirably.
I think, what a thankless job. Yeah. You couldn't pay me enough. I mean, everyone squawks on Capitol Hill about the Epstein documents, and it's terrible what happened to the victims of Epstein, but I think it's unrealistic what Capitol Hill has demanded. There's something like 5 million documents on disks, and it's incredible. And they have to be redacted for names that can't be included in it, and she can't do some 5 million documents herself. She's got to outsource it to others in the department. And you don't know, I mean, try to redact them. You don't know what are duplicates, and you've got Capitol Hill with this political animal, squawking, and you've got these poor victims. And she, I thought it was unfair. I mean, I don't know how I would have done it.
I think if she was fired for that reason, I'm sure in part she was. I agree with you. I think it is unfair. I don't think anyone could have handled it well. I mean, this is a case that is almost unmanageable because of the things that you've just talked about, and the horror of it. No matter how tough you are, you're not tough enough. You can't be tough enough on someone like that. So it was almost an impossible standard for her to meet.
And and the other thing too is the indictments. Now, she's been in office, I mean, I sound like an apologist for her, but she's only been in office a year and a couple of months, change. Indictments usually, I mean, they take gathering evidence, they take,
by your local, by the prosecutors in the jurisdiction, right? So it's not, she's not prosecuting, right? No. That's the important thing for people to understand.
Yeah, she's not the one who's out investigating the case.
And she's had U.S. attorneys refuse, even after pushing, and some even stepping aside.
And there have been so many vacancies. She doesn't, I mean, they don't even have a full complement of U.S. attorneys. Largely the people have been quitting the office, not because of Pam, but a lot of them have been unhappy with the president for political reasons. I mean, in many ways, I think, I mean, I don't know if she was the right person for the job, but it was an impossible job. And she did have a good career as a state attorney general, so she at least had the experience for it. So I think that everyone's now, it's like blood in the water in this.
Well, the person they appointed to replace her temporarily as the acting attorney general is Trump's lawyer, and someone who's used to doing what Donald Trump wants to do, and not someone who's necessarily a career U.S. attorney person. So we'll wait and see whether you see a different thing. He probably not going to be I can't. I don't. The president can nominate him if he wants to. I think he'd be a very tough person to get confirmed in the United States Senate. You're hearing Lee Zeldin's name mentioned over and over as a possibility, and one of the reasons is because he's already been through the confirmation process. He's been confirmed. He's done a great job as EPA director, and while he'd be controversial, he wouldn't be within the Republican conference, and therefore he'd be able to get the votes to get confirmed. I think the temporary guy, Branch or whatever his name is, he would be tougher because he would be a Trump acolyte without the experience.
You take James Comey, former FBI director, who's just a leaker and doing dirty, rotten things, and he was not indicted.
Right.
It was not because Pam didn't try to indict him. It was because a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia didn't indict him, and because they put a very JV prosecutor, woman, on to try to indict the case because it was so new into the administration, and the case was not put together, and they ran up against the statute of limitations. That was not Pam Bondi.
Well, in Washington, the buck stops at the top, and I'm sure there's frustration. You can't take it out on the staff within the Justice Department. Take it out on the person who's at the top of the food chain.
I also think probably yesterday's my wild guess is listening to the argument in the Supreme Court. I thought the Solicitor General, to me, and he's probably a much smarter guy than I am, but I'm a tougher lawyer, and I thought that he just didn't sell it. He seemed weak before the Supreme Court, and if I were sitting there and he's my lawyer, like President Trump is probably thinking like, I bet she got blamed, because he just seemed he didn't have the passion and that a trial lawyer would, and he seemed weak, and I bet that just enraged Trump watching that.
It was clear that the argument didn't go well, and now I'm not sure that was because of the argument, but the judges came in there, and certainly the questions asked looked like he wasn't delivering the mail, if you will. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that it happened after that.
Terrible job, though, isn't it? The Attorney General. Is the Attorney General the lawyer for the president or for the American people? What is it?
It's the lawyer for the American people. I mean, the White House counsel is the lawyer for the president, not the Attorney General. And look, the average cabinet secretary is about a year and a half. So this is about the time that you start to see turnover, and I suspect you'll see more.
Indeed. Senator Rick Santorum, thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, Jay Town, joins me. Jay, the news that's rocking Washington. I mean, politics is a contact sport. It's tougher than playing the front line for the Green Bay Packers. So their thought today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that General Bondi's tenure was expected to last long past today, but I was a little surprised of the timing. But I will say this Department of Justice, as I think Senator Santorum was saying, and you were saying, it really had a Herculean task from day one. There was a number of people embedded in the Department of Justice that just had to go. They were very political. And they rooted those folks out, and they're now gone, and the country and the Justice Department is better off for it. And don't forget, it seems kind of like forever ago, Greta, when you and I were talking about all of the injunctions that this administration faced on January 20th and beyond. And this DOJ fought all of them, most of them successfully, whether it was turn the planes around or you can't wear a blue suit. There were federal judges all over the country issuing nationwide injunctions. And they had a lot of victories at the United States Supreme Court as well. And so, we can talk about the Epstein files. There's probably some promises. There's some over-promising there. But at the same time, I'm really proud of what General Bondi has done. And I have great confidence in Todd Blanche. I know Todd well. I don't know Pam well. But Todd Blanche is a tough guy. He's a smart guy. And if he is the nominee, he'll serve well. If he's acting and goes back to being the DAG, he'll continue to do well.
Do you agree that the victims of Epstein, terrible what happened to them. Absolutely 100% terrible. I actually assigned what happened to them, the U.S. attorneys and the line assistants for the last 15 years who had the evidence in their office and didn't prosecute them. I don't assign Pam Bondi is just the one who shows up in the office, a year and a half ago when all of a sudden Congress says, okay, now we want all the records, you just sort through it. Meanwhile, all the prosecutors who could have prosecuted him and gone through those, whether it's the Southern District of New York or down in in Palm Beach. They didn't. I mean, they're not the ones that are getting fired today. I mean, they're not the ones getting blamed, and they're the ones who had the responsibility to prosecute Epstein. She said the job of trying to sort through 5 million documents while she's trying to run a Department of Justice to figure out what answers the statute and what doesn't, that was passed in December.
Right, and don't forget that the Democrats and a handful of Republicans passed a law forcing her to sort through all 5 million of those documents and those, countless hours of just awful videotape and images, so that they could, within a 30-day time frame per the law, put it on the internet, which is essentially a porn site, and now you have to be 18 to enter it. And that was something that they forced her to do. Keep in mind that Epstein was charged with crimes occurring between basically 1996 and 2004. Anything that happened during that time frame, the statute of limitations ran long ago. Now, we fixed that statute of limitations in 2022, but there's no ex post facto laws, as you know, so you can't kind of grab those cases and bring them forward. There was nothing to prosecute. I want to bury every sex offender under a prison, right next to the ones that I've buried there, but there just wasn't anyone under the law that they could have brought to justice at this point.
But the irony of it, Jay, is that we talk about the years when he was actively committing the crime and they knew about it because there were calls and there were complaints by the victims. Is that those people are just sitting at home right now watching it on TV when they're the people that you could haul before Congress to say, why didn't you do your job? Those are the ones that you could haul before Congress. The Pam Bondi is getting hauled before Congress to say, well, you didn't sort through the documents right and do it soon enough and do 5 million documents within 30 days. Like we told you to. I mean, it's like, it's a little absurd that the people who should have prosecuted him and had the evidence didn't, and they're not being held accountable.
Right, I'm 100% in agreement with you. And when we see these, for instance, district attorneys around the country that are letting people out or off with soft sentences, and they go out and they then commit a murder, or states that have no bail, so these people with 25 arrests in 26 days are walking amongst us, and they're serious violent crimes. It's the same accountability here that I think you're advocating for those that let Epstein go all those years, and Ghislaine Maxwell as well. And who knows who else we could have prosecuted in the human trafficking capacity had we been able to be aggressive, had U.S. attorneys that were aggressive during the time frames where they knew that this was going on.
And there was no law that said former Attorney General Merrick Garland couldn't have gone through those documents, or any other attorney general before him. Merrick Garland had just as much, he could have gone through those documents and redacted them. He didn't have to wait for a statute, and he didn't.
And the two members of Congress who are the loudest screeching about the Epstein files, Ro Khanna from California and Thomas Massie from Kentucky. You know how many times they tweeted about the Epstein files during the Biden administration? 0. In 2025, there's hundreds of thousands of tweets from them because suddenly it's Trump's promise and his responsibility, even though they just had 4 years of Garland, and you had years of Barr and Sessions before that, and Eric Holder before that. Nobody was calling for accountability then until Donald Trump, to his great credit, and Pam Bondi said, you know what, let's look into it. Let's dig. Finally, someone did something. And I don't think Pam's being punished. She's been punished in the public. I don't think that's what went on between her and the president. But I think that, for them to blame this Department of Justice for not holding anyone accountable in the Epstein files is absurd.
Well, and my husband always laughs when I get outraged at this. He said, you just woke up and discovered there's hypocrisy in Washington? Where have you been? Anyway.
John's the best. I love him. He's great.
J-Town, thank you. People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.